When next year's election rolls round, one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest single issue, will be transport. And Daniel Andrews, the opposition leader, is to announce his major traffic policies. Daniel Andrews, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ross.
Your 50 worst level crossings will be gone within 8 years if Labor wins next year's election, you say. Am I right in thinking that it's about $120 million per level crossing?
Something around that. We think, given that we're doing so many, we'll get pretty good value. I think there'll be some economies of scale, and we're confident that we can get it done. The sale of the long-term lease on the Port of Melbourne, Ross, is what funds that element of the package. So that's a big call, but I think it's one that we need to make, given that these are dangerous. They're very congested, and with those boom gates gone, you can run more trains more often. So it's the right thing to do.
Is it more about safety or more about traffic flow?
I think it's both. This is the RACV's list, together with some input from the National Safety Regulators list, and we've also looked at other level crossings where there's been fatalities or other major collisions in the last decade. There's been 200 serious incidents over the last 10 years, so safety is a big part of it, but obviously anyone, and most of us have, who's spent time at one of these level crossings knows just how congested they get during the peak hour. And the thing is that if you add even just a few extra train services in the peak, you finish up with some of these boom gates would be down, Ross, for like 50 minutes of the hour. So it's a real barrier to better public transport as well.
The key to all this is selling something that perhaps the Kennett government wasn't able to sell. That's the Port of Melbourne. Are you sure you're going to be able to sell it and get that money for it?
And if so, to whom?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the Port of Botany and Port Kembla up in Sydney, they've been sold recently. The Port of Brisbane was sold as well. We think we can do this. This is the trend. I know it's a big decision, but it's one transport asset, and if we can sell that, we can invest those proceeds through a legislated fund. There'll be a fund under an Act of Parliament that guarantees the money goes into public transport and road projects. We're confident we can get a good price. I know there's some speculation about the value. I'm not going to nominate the number because we don't want to be telling bidders what we'd sell it for. But legally, there's no barrier, and I think it makes sense. It's, if you like, recycling the value in the port, putting that money into a whole lot of other really important projects.
Given that Dennis Napthine says he can build the East-West Tunnel without having to sell the Port of Melbourne, how about we sell the Port of Melbourne, build the East-West Tunnel, plus get rid of your 50 level crossings?
Well, what I put forward today, Ross, is we've got our own funding stream, so we don't need the money that Dennis Napthine's committed to the East-West Tunnel, and that's important because he said he's going to sign the contracts before Victorians vote. I think it'd be better if Victorians got to choose whether they wanted the East-West Tunnel to be built, but that's not what Dennis Napthine's going to do. If I think it went to the election, I'm pretty confident that Victorians would vote for better public transport. At the end of the day, we found our own source of funding because Dennis Napthine is not going to make available the money he's committed to the East-West project, and I think that's the best way to go.
What will have been committed to the East-West link by the time of next year's election, and will that just have been squirted up against the wall if you get elected?
Oh, no, I've been very clear about the fact that, well, we can have a debate about whether it's value for money. I think it does cost a lot but doesn't do a great deal. But I've been very clear right from day one when I said this was not the project for our state, that I'm not going to rip up contracts. I know there's some people who'd like me to do that, but that's not the responsible thing to do. So if contracts are signed, a future government will honour them. In terms of your question about how much has contributed, well, we don't have a business case. We don't have even sort of rudimentary financial details about this. You'd have to ask Dennis Napthine to answer those questions, and if you can get an answer out of him, you'll be doing better than I have in the Parliament for almost 12 months.
So if he signs the contract for the East-West Tunnel, you're going to be bound by it. Does that affect your costing of what all you want to do with these 50 level crossings?
No, that's the key point, Ross. What we've done, what we've done is through the Port of Melbourne lease, we've been able to find additional money outside any East-West envelope. That money's going to be denied to us and denied to all Victorians because Dennis Napthine's going to sign the contract. So this happens assuming that Dennis Napthine signs the contracts. We'll have enough money funded and costed to deliver the level crossings, deliver the planning for Melbourne Metro Rail, which is very important, doubling the size of the City Loop, running basically a train service in the peak that won't need a timetable, but also more money for suburban roads, more money for country roads, and also a plan to get 5,000 trucks a day off the West Gate.
Daniel Andrews, we thank you very much for your time.
Very good to talk to you both.